Good evening and welcome to Primetime News on TV1. I am Mazwa San, joining you with our sign language interpreter, Taraka Gabriel. Before we head into our stories in detail, let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
President discusses AstraZeneca vaccine shortage with World Health Chief. Chinese jab likely to receive World Health Organization's approval. NMRA approves usage of the Pfizer vaccine in Sri Lanka. MOH and District Secretary allowed to decide on imposing restrictions. Attention drawn towards treating COVID-19 cases at homes, State Minister Sudarshini says. Construction of the 54 billion rupee Ruwanpura Expressway commences.
We live in uncertain times. The threat of COVID-19, even a year on since its onset, is greater than ever. Therefore, we at Newsfirst, the voice of the people, have made it our responsibility to ensure that you are aware of the latest developments concerning COVID-19 in the country. On our bulletin tonight, we intend to apprise you of all the questions that matter to you. Let's take a look.
How many COVID-19 patients have been detected today? Will the authorities announce a lockdown? What areas have been placed in isolation? What action should you take if you are a COVID-19 patient who has still not been admitted to hospital? How fatal is COVID-19? What is the progress of the vaccination drive implemented to administer the AstraZeneca vaccine?
How many COVID-19 patients have been detected today? According to the Ministry of Health, 1,097 COVID-19 patients have been detected as at 6:30 p.m. today, the 7th of May. Accordingly, the total COVID-19 caseload in the country has risen to 120,521. 745 COVID-19 related deaths have been reported up to now. 878 COVID-19 patients recovered today, raising the total number of recoveries in the country to 101,763. What are the areas that were placed under isolation today?
Several parts of the country were placed under isolation as part of efforts to stem the spread of COVID-19. Accordingly, the Eldenia North, Surya Palua South, Surya Palua North, Lower Karagahamuna North and the Upper Karagahamuna North Gramanildari divisions were placed under isolation since this morning. In the Piliandal Police jurisdiction, the Halpita 570, Kasbeva East, Makandara West, Nivungama and Pulhena Gramanildar divisions were placed under isolation since this morning. In the Kalatara district, the Pimbura Gramanildar division in Agalawatha and the Yatiana West Gramanildar division in Matugama are also under isolation.
What are the areas in which isolation status has been lifted?
The isolation status has been lifted in the Ingurudalua Gramanildar division in Badrelia and the Palawatha East, Miriswatha and the Lower Hebes Gramanildar divisions in the Kaluthara district. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has instructed officials to expedite the process of importing and distributing COVID-19 vaccines among the public. During a meeting of the COVID-19 committee at the Presidential Secretariat, the President had stressed that the maximum possible vaccines must be administered within a short time period. Officials have pointed out that all possible measures, including placing areas under isolation, have been taken as part of efforts to curb the spread of COVID-19.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has said he believes that the Director General of the World Health Organization will make an effort to fulfill Sri Lanka's need for 600,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine for the second dose of the vaccination drive. In a tweet, the President said he had engaged in an online discussion with Dr. Tedros Adhanom and went on to note that approval would be given in another 2 to 3 days for the Chinese Sinopharm vaccine to be used for emergency use. The President tweeted, quote, "With that approval, Sri Lanka will be able to start vaccinating our people with the current stock of 600,000 Sinopharm doses in hand." End quote. He further said that the Director General of the WHO, while commending Sri Lanka's control of the pandemic during the first wave, was hopeful that the current surge in infected people would be soon brought under control. The President further tweeted, quote, "I registered my appreciation of the support the WHO has been providing at regional and Colombo office level." End quote. What is the status of the AstraZeneca vaccine? The administration of the second dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine commenced on the 27th of April. Official figures indicate that 174,800 individuals have received the second dose amongst approximately 925,000 individuals who received the first dose of the jab. 17,249 individuals had received the second dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine yesterday.
We will also take steps to import 600,000 doses of AstraZeneca vaccine and administer them among individuals who are awaiting the second dose of the same jab. Since it is a matter that is beyond our control, it is difficult to bring down the AstraZeneca vaccine. Using our private connections, we are trying to purchase the vaccine from any part of the world.
Is there a possibility of administering other vaccines? The administration of the first dose of the Russian Sputnik jab began yesterday. 669 individuals have received the first dose so far.
We began the administration of Russia's Sputnik vaccine among residents of Gottatua in Kolonava. 661 individuals have received the first dose of that vaccine. So far, no side effects have been reported. The advisory committee of the National Medicines Regulatory Authority has approved the usage of the Pfizer vaccine. We hope to vaccinate around 5 million Sri Lankans using this jab.
Meanwhile, Russian health authorities have approved a one-dose vaccine to be administered in their country. The Russian Direct Investment Fund, which helps finance the vaccine, said in a statement that the jab has been named Sputnik Light. The latest vaccine has demonstrated an efficacy rate of 79.4%. Will lockdowns be imposed?
We have vested powers with the provincial medical directors and district secretaries to decide on the need to impose restrictions in their respective areas. But it must be done after informing the Director General of Health Services. Therefore, restrictions may be imposed in various areas based on the requirement. If necessary, we might place the country under lockdown in future.
Has attention been drawn towards treating COVID-19 infected individuals at their homes?
We are nearing a maximum capacity at hospitals. Approximately 15,000 infected individuals are currently hospitalized. At the same time, we are constructing intermediary hospitals on district levels. We hope to increase the capacity of beds by 2,000 in all districts. When infections continue to increase, some infected individuals might have to remain at home. The Health Ministry is preparing the relevant guidelines in this regard.
How should a COVID-19 infected individual conduct oneself?
When a person is identified as an infected individual, it is important for such an individual to distance oneself from their family members. At the same time, it is important for such an individual to remain in a ventilated room. They must use a separate washroom as well. It is important for these infected individuals to take rest. While lying on your left or right side, it would be best if you can keep your head elevated by sleeping on a few pillows. This will ease the flow of air into your lungs and prevent a risk of developing severe pneumonia. It is important to consume enough fluids to prevent dehydration. If a person has a bedridden illness, they must continue to take their medication for such illnesses. We know that individuals who have heart-related ailments consume medicines like aspirin. There is no issue if they continue to consume that medication. It is also important for diabetic patients to control their sugar levels. It would also be appropriate for those with respiratory illnesses to use their inhalers as well. Inhaling steam will also assist in improving the health condition of one's lungs. Other forms of medication must not be used. They can only inhale steam.
Can deaths of COVID-19 patients occur within a short period? Several individuals are inquiring whether a situation like India can occur in our country. We don't have details on that. We will not witness people collapsing on roads.
I haven't heard of reports on people falling down on streets. Most of our infected individuals succumb to the virus at hospitals, at intensive care units or at homes. In such an instance, we carry out PCR tests and determine it as a COVID-19 death based on the result. We have not seen reports of people falling on the streets due to the virus. There are several patients who had died in their homes and the posthumous PCR tests returned positive results. Such deaths were reported when COVID-19 cases spiked in the Colombo municipality limits.
අපි කොළඹ මහනගර සභා සීමාව තුළ මේක පැතිරෙන කාලෙත් ඒ වගේ මරණ වාර්තා වුණා.
Operations are being carried out across the country to identify individuals who flout quarantine regulations. Operations were carried out today in numerous areas within Colombo to locate those who flout the quarantine regulations. During these operations, individuals who failed to wear face masks in a proper manner were arrested by police. Meanwhile, 8 individuals who were engaged in betting while flouting COVID-19 regulations were arrested in the Hungamu area in Bandaragama. The police had carried out this operation based on information provided by residents and steps were taken to direct the suspects to quarantine. The police noted that certain individuals who were involved in betting had fled the area at the time of the incident and a search operation has been launched to track down the suspects.
Will schools, universities, Piriven institutions, preschools and tuitions be allowed to function? Due to the prevailing COVID-19 situation, we have decided to suspend the reopening of schools, preschools, Piriven institutions and tuition classes. The same applies to universities as well. The government wants to ensure that academic activities are not interrupted, but prominence must be given to the safety of our children. Once the situation returns to normalcy, we will reopen schools and universities. We will inform the date of recommencement 3 days prior to that.
එසේ කිරීමට පෙර අවම වශයෙන් දින 3ක කල්දීමක් කළා ඒ දිනය ප්‍රකාශයට පත් කිරීමට අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
Meanwhile, Indonesian ambassador to Sri Lanka, Gusti Nugra Adiasa, met with opposition leader Sajith Premadasa in Colombo today. While discussing the current state of COVID-19 in Sri Lanka, the ambassador had drawn parallels with Indonesia, saying that it too had suffered greatly in light of the pandemic. However, a coordinated immunization drive in the country had greatly supported the stemming of COVID-19 in Sri Lanka. The opposition leader also expressed his views on the current situation of the COVID-19 pandemic in the country.
They are unable to administer the second dose of the vaccine to 600,000 people of the 900,000 people who have given the first dose, who will be responsible for their health and well-being. But they have administered 950,000 first doses. We got to know the other day that the mayor of Kurunagala had provided jabs to 20 of his aides. We have received reports that the doctor who revealed the details has been threatened.
The situation is worsening each day. 8% of total PCR tests have returned positive results. The spread of the virus is rapid. The only solution for this is to lock down the country for 2 weeks. It is a difficult decision, but it must be done to avoid a greater crisis.
The government cannot blame the general public. The general public is prepared to make a sacrifice. These rulers are too proud. They are attempting to destroy this nation. Do not make ad hoc decisions. The people have had to pay with their lives because of the government's short-sighted decisions.
Close aides of the government converted the pandemic into a business. However, if they directed only 10 billion rupees towards the vaccination drive, the economy would not have collapsed to this extent. The COVID-19 fund amassed more than 1 billion rupees. We challenged them to reveal how the funds were utilized. PHI unions and doctors' unions are now revealing that the helpless people of the country do not have beds. They do not have vaccines. Their intention is to make our country another India where people die on the streets.
They have funds to construct pointless towers and to construct expressways, but they have to beg to obtain vaccines. Debt burden is 101% of GDP in Sri Lanka. For each rupee we earn, we are in debt of 1 rupee and 10 cents. It is against that backdrop they are constructing more expressways. A mammoth cost of 50 billion is spent on a simple stretch of 25 kilometers. For those, they have funds. Because the people are unaware of how much it costs to construct a kilometer of a road, they can loot as much as they want.
Now in news from India, the country recorded more than 414,000 new COVID-19 infections today, making it the highest number of daily infections. Official figures indicated that 3,927 deaths were detected yesterday, as the number of deaths crossed the 3,000 mark for the 10th time.
India has recorded 234,083 deaths due to COVID-19, which is spreading rapidly among the country. The Indian Ocean nation has also recorded 21.49 million infections as well. Against such a backdrop, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is planning to embark on a project to refurbish the parliamentary complex at a cost of $1.8 billion. Indian media reported that steps have been taken to identify this as an essential service in order to give prominence to the project. According to Indian media reports, the project also includes the construction of an official residence for the country's leader.
The construction of the first phase of the Ruwanpur Expressway at a cost of 54 billion rupees was launched under the auspices of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa today.
Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa had attended the opening ceremony of the project via digital technology due to COVID-19 restrictions. The main event took place at the Koralaima area in Kahatuduwa. The Ruwanpur Expressway that is being constructed under the government's Vistas of Prosperity and Splendor policy spans 73.9 kilometers. This is the 7th expressway to be constructed in the country. The expressway will be constructed under 3 phases, with the first phase running from Kahatuduwa to Ingiriya. The first section spans 24.3 kilometers.
They said that the government has gone bankrupt and it does not have funds. They said that the government and the president are begging for money from foreign countries. However, we have stabilized the economy. We settled payment to all contractors and managed the situation effectively. We have awarded a tender to construct the expressway at a cost of 2.4 or 2.5 billion rupees. We have given the contractor 30 months to complete construction work. They have done a wonderful job with the Kurunegala Expressway.
We
have given prominence to the project, although the country is facing a massive issue due to COVID-19. That is because we will have to incur an additional payment based on the agreement if we delay it. We will have to pay additional interest to the entities involved in this as well. This will result in us paying more tax money of the people. The government will spend 54.7 billion rupees for the first phase of the expressway spanning 24 kilometers. A local company is involved in the project. Expressways are the projects that are heavily criticized in the country. But those who criticize the construction activities are now trailing in the comfort of the expressways. As a government, we have prioritized the protection of people during this period due to COVID-19. But we cannot close down the entire country. If the public abides by health directives, it will not be difficult to bring the situation to normalcy. Therefore, I am requesting the people to abide by the directives of health authorities.
Farmers across the country are facing many difficulties due to the shortage of fertilizer.
Farmers in the area arrived at the Kapatipula town with the expectation of purchasing fertilizer required for their cultivations. Although a truck containing 200 sacks of fertilizer had arrived in the Kapatipula town after many days, several farmers had to return empty-handed.
This is an utter failure. The president and ministers are making these decisions while sitting inside glass doors in Colombo. They should come and see how many people are suffering here. We have enough work in our fields and we have to work to feed our families. Without doing any work, we are made to stand in lines to obtain some fertilizer. Tell those people who claim that there is enough fertilizer in the country to come and find out themselves.
Farmers in the Tihagoda Divisional Secretariat in Matara who had cultivated 550 acres of land are experiencing difficulties due to the shortage of fertilizer. 6.9 million people voted for them, but this problem exists in all areas. Ultimately, we will have to consume poison. The people who supply fertilizer to us have not received sufficient fertilizer stocks so that it can be distributed among us. They want our votes, but since they came to power, they did not pay attention to the farmers. They didn't formulate a proper plan, but they are trying to go for an alternative plan without providing a solution.
Footage of a group of people assaulting a vehicle driver along the Gampaha-Yakkala road is making the rounds on social media at present. According to sources, the altercation has occurred because the victim had not allowed the another vehicle to overtake him.
A bus came behind me. I only saw a private bus. The moment I let it overtake me, they blocked my path and stopped. Then they forcefully opened the door and started assaulting me. He was wearing a police shirt. I pleaded with him to stop attacking me. They then used profanity. Media spokesperson of police, DIG Ajit Rohana, said a probe has already commenced into the matter. Maharagama Urban Council member Nishantha Vimalachandra was arrested today over the assault on councillor Savitri Gunasekara during yesterday's meeting. Both councillors had been elected to the Urban Council through independent groups that pledged support to the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna. Councillor Savitri Gunasekara had filed a complaint with the police stating that her mobile phone had been misplaced during a brawl at yesterday's meeting.
When I was recording a video on my phone, he hit my hand. Then my phone slipped from my possession. He then slapped my left cheek. This is not a major injury, but it has caused immense pain to me. As a councillor, I was elected to this council to serve the people. This has caused grief to me. This has caused immense pain to us as women. When they start attacking women who have been respectfully elected to the council, it causes mental agony to us rather than physical pain. We gained 25% of female representation with much difficulty. The chairman of the council must bear responsibility for this. I request for strict action to be taken against this councillor who disrespects women.
කරුණාකරලා මේක කඩන්න දෙන්න මේ ටික නැත්තම් මෙන්න ඔක්කොම ටික ගැටෙන එක. අනේ මන්ද මහත්තයා ඉතින් සාධාරණයි කියලා හිතනනම් කරගන්න ඉතින් නෑ නෑ එහෙම සාධාරණයි කියලා හිතන්නේ නෑ ඕගොල්ලන් හිතන්නේ ඕගොල්ලන් හිතන්නේ නෙමෙයි අපි දැන් සාධාරණ නෑ මුක්තියට සවි වෙන්නේ නෑ ඉතින් දැන් උතුම දැන් මොකද කියන්නේ මට කියන්නකෝ ඔය විදියට තමයි කරන්නේ දැන් ඕගොල්ලන් වැඩේ කරන්නකෝ අපේ කට්ටියල වැඩේ කරන්නකෝ ඒක ඔක්කොම කරගෙන යන්කෝ හරිද මේක තියන්නද ඕනේ මහත්තයෝ අපි කියන්නේ මේ පැත්තේ ඉඳලා හදන්න නෑ නෑ මම මෙතක් කියලා පටන් ගන්නම්කෝ ඔයාට අමාරුවක් තියෙනද ඒක ඔයා එන්න දෙලා යන්නකෝ ඔයා කීයටද නිමිනේ කරුණාකරලා යන්න බෑ මම මේ මට ඕන නම් මං කරන්නේ ඔයා මට උගන්වන්න එපා ඌලෝද මට ඔයාගේ වැඩේ කරන්නකෝ පොලිසිය ඇවිල්ලා දිනකට වැඩේ කරා මේ මෙහෙම වෙලාවට මේවද කරන්න තියෙන්නේ අනේ කොච්චර දේවල් මේ වහිනවා කොරෝනාත් වැස්සනවත් නැහැ කවුරු දෙවියනේ කොහෙද දෙවියනේ ඔබ කොහෙද
Moratua Mayor Samanlal Fernando intervened in a tense situation that arose between urban council workers involved in a project to clear out a blocked stream along the Katubadda-Polkotua road. The tense situation arose when urban council workers tried to remove certain constructions that blocked the flow of water in the stream. The public who objected to the urban council members alleged that removing these constructions is a one-sided decision.
අතිවාරම්ම එහෙම දානකොටම ඔබතුමාලට මේක වළක්වන්න තිබ්බනේ. දැන් මේ ওই විදියට කිව්වා අතිවාරෙම ඉඳලා අපි කිව්වා. කියන දේ
We did say so. They do not pay attention and construct it illegally. There is no date or time to initiate the law. We will only use the space required for the drain.
ඒක කැඩීමට පුළුවන්. ඒකනේ නීතිය කියන්නේ. අපි මේ කානුවට අවශ්‍ය වෙන ප්‍රමාණය විතරයි ගන්න. ඉතින් එහාට ගන්න.
පට්ට බොරුවක් කියන්නේ මේ. හරිද? මෙයා හැමදාම කරන්නේ බොරුව. මෙතන මේකත් තියෙනවා. මෙයා හැමදාම ඇවිල්ලා කරන්නේ බොරුව. අපි හැමදාම ගියා මෙයා ගාව හැමදේම කරගන්න පට්ට බොරුවක් තමයි මෙයා කරේ. ඒ හින්දා කරුණාකරලා මෙයා කියනවා අහන්න එපා. හරිද වැඩි? හරි. හරි. ඉස්සරහට බලා ගන්න කිව්වා. ගන්න මෙතුමල්ලා යන්න ඕන මේ. අද ඕඩර් එකක් පොඩක් පට්ට බොරුව මේ කරන්නේ.
ඔබතුමාට අපි 3 පාරක්ද 4 පාරක්ද දීලා තිබ්බා. මේක කරන්නේ අද වෙනතුරු ඔයාලා කිසි දෙයක් කරේ නැහැ.
කිසිම දෙයක් කරේ නැහැ. එකපාරක් ආවා මේ හිසන් කිව්වා.
දැන් හොඳටම ඇති. නේද? මම ඔයත් එක්ක කතා කරාවේ නැහැ. දැන් හොඳටම ඇති. දැන් ඔයාගේ වැඩක් මෙතන නෑනේ. දැන් කරුණාකරලා මහත්තයන
මගේ වැඩ නෑ මගේ වත්තේ ඉන්නේ.
මගේ වත්තේ නෙමෙයි මම ඉන්නේ. දැන් මම ඉවතුවා මේ මහත්තයන මම ඉන්නේ. මගේ යන්න කොහොන හරි යන්න
මගේ වත්තේ මේ ඉන්නේ.
මම මෙතන ඉඳ මහත්තයා දැන් යන්නකෝ. දැන් යන්නකෝ. ලස්සට කතා කරන්නේ මම දැන්. අද යන්නකෝ. අපි බැරි නැති යනවා නේද? බැරි නැති යනවා නේද? මම මේ chance එක දෙන්න වීඩියෝ කරන්න නැත්නම් අන්න හදන්න.
This was the response shown by Mayor towards the police, who intervened to bring the tense situation under control.
According to the central bank's annual report for 2020, Sri Lanka has reclassified $2.23 billion worth of foreign debt as domestic borrowings.
According to the central bank, international sovereign bonds worth $2.23 billion held by local entities have been excluded from foreign liabilities and reclassified as domestic debt. The reclassification of ISBs, the significant decline in the market price of Sri Lanka's ISBs, the ISB repayments last year, and the significant decline in T-bill and bonds held by foreigners have reduced Sri Lanka's foreign debt by 10% to $49.2 billion at end of 2020 from $54.8 billion at end of 2019.
There's another complication to it, and that is we don't know how much of foreign borrowings went in to purchase these $2.2 billion worth of bonds. Unless the government of Sri Lanka goes and repurchases those bonds in the secondary market, the real liability is what is on the face value of the bond. It is only gimmickry government is using to show that there has been a steep fall in our liabilities to external holders of our bonds. You know, the first one is in July. They say about $300 million worth of the billion-dollar bond is held by locals. Will they accept rupees? Absolutely not. They have to be paid back in dollars. So if they have to be paid back in dollars, what is the big deal in trying to show, look, we only have $11 billion as opposed to $14 billion that needs to be paid back?
News overseas, the Maldivian police has said that they are attempting to identify 4 possible suspects linked to the explosion that left former Maldivian President Mohamed Nasheed injured yesterday. The ADK hospital in which Nasheed is receiving treatment has said that he remains in a critical condition.
The Maldivian police in a statement said The 2 experts from the Australian Federal Police are due to arrive in Maldives tomorrow morning to assist in the investigations. The statement added that 2 technical experts of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime from the United Kingdom, who are based in the Maldives, are also assisting in the probe. There was no immediate claim of responsibility for the attack. Convening a media briefing, Police Commissioner Mohammed Hamid said the police are treating the blast as an act of terrorism and that attempts are being made to arrest 4 suspects. The ADK hospital in which Nasheed is receiving treatment said that he had undergone life-saving surgery on injuries to his head, chest, abdomen and limbs and remains in a critical condition in intensive care. In a tweet published today, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa wished the former Maldivian president and all those injured in the explosion a full and speedy recovery. The tweet read, quote-unquote, Sri Lanka and her people condemn the attack and will always stand against any such cowardly act.
Remnants of a large Chinese rocket launched last week are expected to plunge back through the atmosphere this weekend. A herd of elephants which were roaming in the Madru Oya Reserve in search of food fell into the Zidi Canal this morning. We leave you tonight with the footage from the ordeal the herd of around 20 elephants had to undergo in order to climb out from the canal. For the Newsfirst team, I am Azra Hassan with our sign language interpreter for tonight, Tarka Gabriel, joining us via Zoom. Thank you very much for joining us. Take care and good night.
Hari goda. Ali goda una peta unda goda wenda wenne naha ne.